All righty, it's 1:01, so let's go ahead and kick it off. Thanks everybody for joining us. I do see that more are, so they'll catch up with us. And of course, we are recording. So if you do miss part of it or have to mute for some reason, you will be able to view this on video. And we are joined by a special guest today. I would like to say Kelly was unable to join us this week. They have a lot going on at Wells Fargo, as you might imagine right now. So we do miss her. I wanted to give Kelly Ann Zuccarelli a shout out and thank her for always being our fantastic moderator. But we're going to limp along without her today and move forward. Let me introduce you to our panelists. So we have a special guest panelist. Hi, Jane.
Hey, everybody.
Jane is a strategist who works in the design end of the home building industry, and her background prior to opening the company 19 years ago, almost 20 years, all right, is in the sales and marketing end of the new home industry. Her company is Success Strategies, and the website, though, is optforsuccess.net. So she's worked with hundreds of builders in over 40 states, provides design studio consulting, training, and studio creation services. So thank you very much for joining us, Jane.
Thank you.
Of course, the lady who needs no introduction, Miss Carol Morgan from Denim Marketing. So, and Carol is, of course, has a woman-owned agency specializing in strategic marketing, media relations, blogging, social media, promotions, advertising, and much more. She's a past NAHB PW chair and past membership chair and current second vice chair of associates at NAHB. So she does all that in her spare time, I think.
Good morning, everyone.
And then we also have our friend from Colorado, Leah Kaz Fellows, and her company is Blue Gypsy Inc. Leah is an online sales counselor trainer for the new home building industry. She's been working in online sales for 14 years, first as an OSC and now working to help create and train the position for builders across the country. Her background is in sales and marketing, and she spent 13 years before that traveling the world as a backpacker, a dive instructor, and a sailboat captain. So our roving gypsy.
The gypsy.
Thanks, Leah. And I am Kimberly Mackey. My company is New Homes Solutions. And I am a sales and marketing management consultant. I work with builders all over the country, and I also work with large brokerages. So I like to say that I'm the person who makes sure that sales is the engine that drives the train rather than runs it off the tracks. So now that we have our introductions out of the way, let's move on and talk about charting your course. So what you do now matters. It matters for how quickly you're able to recover. And I know I talked to some people in Michigan yesterday, and they're really shut down. So it varies all over the country what you are able to do right now. But the bottom line is there are still things that you can do. Leah, you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, as far as charting our course forward, last week, as I said, now is the time to set up your online sales foundation if it doesn't already exist, or refine and review your current process. Those are important in charting a course forward, but I'm going to talk for a minute about my personal philosophy. There are two courses you can take when things go wrong and you feel out of control. You can retract inward and feel like you lack the control, and therefore everything else stems from a place of lack. I lack money, I lack sales, I lack, add the next word. Or you can come from a place of abundance. You can say, this is just a minor setback. There's abundance in the world. People desire new homes. People desire to get back on their feet, and we're all in this together. We will regain our footing and move forward. And if we keep thinking in a positive manner and know that there will always be sales out there, there will always be people who desire what we have to offer, whether you're a salesperson, a builder, a consultant, whatever, you will create a positive energy that attracts what you desire. When I was in Japan, I climbed Mount Fuji. In the volcanic scree on the side of the mountain, it's very difficult. For every step forward that you take, you actually slide half a step backwards. The only way to make progress is to make peace with the fact that you're going to slide a half a step back, but you keep moving forward. Right now, we may be sliding a half a step back, but we've been here before and we can do it again. We just need to keep stepping forward and think with that mindset of abundance.
Wow, thank you. Absolutely. That's such a great visual. Carol?
I love that visual. Thanks for that, Leah. I would just say continue to prepare and plan. You know, we are going to get through this. We are going to have our spring selling season. It might not be in the spring, it might be in June, but prepare for that next campaign. Prepare for what you're going to come out of the gate with when we're all able to go back to work and, you know, come out. I'm in the closet today. So when you leave your closet and go back to your real office, be ready, have that plan in place. And this is also a great time to update your crisis communications plan if you have one. And if you don't have one, it is a fantastic time to write one so that in the future, if we have another crisis like this, you're ready to go.
Excellent. Great advice. Jane?
I really enjoyed, Leah, what you just said about moving forward and taking a little bit of a step backward. And what we've really been coaching the design teams that we work with is to understand that, you know, it's different right now. It doesn't have to be better or worse. It's just different. It's different for the customers. It's different for us, but we still have to be focused on providing a spectacular customer experience and figuring out how to do that in different conditions. And that's what professionals do. They rise to the occasion. So.
You know, actually, even because of this, I think there's a lot of opportunities to create even a better customer experience coming out of it. Thank you, Jane.
No doubt.
This week, I worked with some salespeople that for the first time through this, I started to see energy really starting to wane because salespeople, of course, thrive on being in front of people. So energy started to go down a little bit for some of my people as they worked through some of their pipelines. And we really had to coach a lot on keeping that focus, keeping that balance, a lot of what Leah was talking about, so that energy is up because, of course, energy speaks louder than words. So make sure that you're putting that energy out there, whatever you have to do. Sometimes you have to fake it and you have to go, oh, time to put the game face on. So if that's what you have to do, do that. But we all need to keep that game face on because this week we've had some good news coming out of this thing. I mean, good news becomes a little relative, I guess, when we're talking about COVID, but there is some good news. And I think we're starting to see a glimmer of light. Maybe it's flickering at the end of the tunnel. So we're not out of the tunnel yet, but certainly I think we definitely have some hope of getting there. So let's move forward. And Carol, let's talk about what we should be tracking and how that might look a little different today.
Well, you should still be tracking everything. I think the opportunity today is to drill down further into your tracking and figure out what you don't usually look at and use that data and follow up with it with retargeting. But you should be looking at your leads and your qualified leads, as well as your website. You know, on your website, track your traffic, your organic, your paid, your social, all of that. Look at time on site. Look at your top landing pages, and I would look really carefully at those right now because they really should be your virtual tours and your videos and the things that people can consume from home. So look carefully about where they're landing and how long they're staying there. And if they're not really landing first on those videos or those virtual tours, then you may need to unbury them or change your strategy for what you're promoting right now so that those do come top of mind. So look at that top content, your top blog post. Again, this is a great time to look at those top blogs, especially if you're really blogging about things people are interested in. You know, if you're blogging about how to start a container garden or that victory garden everyone's talking about, or how to host your own virtual meeting, or turning your home into the best space for a home office or for homeschooling. So there's lots of different things that people are searching right now. Make sure that content's there and that it's trending on your site. You know, track completed contact forms. You know, how do those compare last month to this month to a year ago? I'm afraid we probably know how they compared to a year ago, but you do want to look at that. Look at downloads. What are they downloading? Are they downloading your home plans? You know, your driving directions? You know, people are still out there driving around some. In most states, there's no law against driving around, right? You can get in your car and get out of the house. You just can't necessarily go anywhere else. Look at your user experience. And if you've got heat maps on your website, track that too. You know, it really is going to depend on what your key performance indicators are, what you're looking at, but track all of that on your website. And then beyond that, your email marketing, your click rate, again, what they're clicking on is really important. How many of them are opening it? How many of them are unsubscribing? Same for your advertising. Look at your results, your leads, your clicks, your goals, what that's costing per click. And then on social media, we track everything on social. I look at what your social traffic does when it hits your website, because I think that's very interesting and good to know. And then I also want to know within each native site, what are they doing on those sites? What's your top post on Facebook? What's the top post on Instagram? Was that boosted or sponsored, or is it just organic? So look at all of that, especially now, because it's going to tell you what else to do. The things that are performing well, especially organically, do more of those and consider boosting those. We call it the force magnifier. So if it's already performing well organically on social and you put a little bit of money behind it, and sometimes it could be as little as $25 to boost it, then you're going to get a lot more traffic and a lot more traction with that. So look at all of that. Measure everything. So I'm sure I've forgotten something, but if you were spending time or money on it, you should be measuring it and figuring out what it's telling you about how people are behaving today on your sites and using that to make your next decisions.
Quick question on that. If they are finding that their social sites are not getting a lot of engagement, should they maybe fake it till they make it a little bit? What would you suggest?
So if their social sites aren't getting a lot of engagements, I would suggest running some ads and running some boosted posts and maybe even running a likes campaign. At least promote your pages to the people who already follow those pages and see if you can get the engagement up that way. The other thing you can do is just make sure everyone on your team is going on and liking and sharing and commenting, because that means their 170 friends on Facebook, because that's the average number of friends most people have, will now have a chance of seeing that. And one of those 170 people might be a potential buyer for you. So yeah, absolutely, prime the pump there, put somebody out there talking about it. You can certainly talk about your own company. They write you a paycheck, right? So
yeah,
great
absolutely. Somehow salespeople get mute when you ask them to go comment on something on Facebook. So encourage them to talk about it as if they were a customer or as if they weren't part of the company too. So all right, Miss Leah, let's move on and let's talk about what your online appointment conversion, if we're still talking about tracking metrics, what should that look like?
So, there are definitely key metrics that we track all the time. And just like Carol said, you don't want to stop tracking. And in fact, you want to dive in deeper, right? And look at different levels of things. You still want to track everything you always track. And just to give some people who either have online sales programs and don't know what they should be tracking or don't yet have OSC programs, the main things you want to track are the number of unique monthly hits that turn into leads. So that's the very first metric at the front of the OSC program. And that's usually around 1 to 3%. Then you would track leads to appointments. So the number of those leads that actually turn into appointments, which can be about 25 to 35% on average. Appointments that show up usually, and now we're looking at virtual show versus in-person show, like since we're changing up how we're setting these appointments, is at least 85% or more. I would hope virtually they're showing up even more because we're doing so many more things now to make sure that that person is ready for an appointment with a sales agent. And then the appointments that actually convert to sales usually on average are about 20 to 25%. And then the final metric that we always look at in online sales is how many sales the online sales counselors leads have turned into versus overall company sales. And in this day and age, before COVID, we were seeing 25 to 35% or more sometimes. Whereas back when I was in OSC, it was sort of 20 to 25%. Because of all of our digital marketing, it definitely is up. So I think because we're setting far more appointments now, we're going to see that number increase. But you may see a slower lead to appointment. So you really want another metric that we don't normally track, but you would want to track is lead engagement and really seeing how people are engaging with you, because it may take longer for them now in this current climate to set an appointment. Okay, but you're still wanting your online sales counselor or whoever it is that's dealing with those incoming leads to be basically qualifying that lead and building that report, and then handing that lead off to an appointment to the site agents. So the OSC shouldn't be running those appointments. So you're really seeing those as more of making sure you're tracking those virtuals and looking through other channels about engagement. And I'll talk about that more with another slide. Carol covered a lot of great information just with what you can look at if you're really into your Google Analytics, which I always think all online sales counselors should have access to that and see their customer behavior. So, but for the most part, just make sure you're not killing yourself because your lead to appointment ratio has slowed down a little bit, and you probably will see your sale ratio to overall sales for the company go up. So that's what you're going to see tracking wise.
And of course, we're referring to, in many cases, virtual appointments now, because we know that many of you cannot continue to do face-to-face, although it depends on where you are across the country,
Some
right?
places they still can, or they're doing appointment only, and so it's different obviously from state to state and area to area, because there's no set way to do it. But whatever you have set up for your company, just know that getting that person to that appointment may be more difficult just because of people's current, uncertainty of what's going to happen and how long this is going to be. But keep engaging with them, keep a positive attitude, because that's really what's going to have them then set that appointment when all of this blows over.
Beautiful. Absolutely.
Yeah. So Kimberly, I'm sure you have some insights into this as well.
Well, from the sales team efforts, right now we're adding some different measurements. Normally, what I like to measure is a system that I call a 10-5-2-1. So basically, the average salesperson needs to have 10 leads every week, 5 first appointments, 2 second appointments or be-back appointments, and that might be a second, third, fourth appointment with a prospect, to convert 1 sale per week. And if you do the math on that, and we give our salespeople 2 weeks vacation a year, that works out to 50 sales per year. So that's the basic metric that I run my planned encounters and my coaching efforts on. But right now we're adding another one, and that is the number of touches. So we're looking at ways to have our sales team track the phone calls that they're making. And the reason we're doing this is not because we're trying to micromanage them. It's because we want them to feel the fruits of their labor. We want them to see what they are doing and what's paying off. So as they're doing their realtor outreach, as they're doing their follow-up with their prospects or any new leads that are coming in that our OSC or the company, the website is driving to them, we want them to track that a little stronger than they would. Want to make sure that they're putting good notes in and doing that even manually or through the CRM, and having a way with the sales management team to then sit down and review that and look at, hey, what's working? Why did this conversation go so much better than the other one? Salespeople need to feel like they are making progress. And if they're not getting sales, a lot of times, sometimes they think that's the only metric. And we know right now nurturing those leads so that as we come out is going to be even more important. So there's a whole lot. We could do a whole webinar on just that alone, but I'll leave it there for now. And if anybody has any questions, absolutely shoot those into the chat. You guys are welcome to chat with us and ask us whatever questions you want. And we will certainly try to address those as we go. So if you look at your bottom right, you should have a chat box right there, and you can just type your questions right in. All right, we're going to move forward now and talk about I've noticed some really cool stuff that I'm seeing builders do. The one thing about right now is it is forcing people to be innovative. And this was actually something that Lennar did in one of their Medley communities, which is active adult. They actually had a wine expert demonstrating wine. They had a virtual wine tasting live on their Facebook page. And I'm like, wait, wine tasting? How on earth are they going to do wine tasting on a Facebook page? But she was excellent. She went through and she had people peel a grape and actually take the skin of the grape and put it in their teeth and said, here's what you should taste depending on what kind of grape it is, and explained tannins. She explained how to read a wine label. And this was like a 30-minute session. And they had about, depending on the time I was watching, how many people were coming on their live, and they were on there maybe 26 to 30 people. And some builders might get discouraged and go, well, it was only 26 or 30 people. Was it really worth doing this? That's 26 or 30 people who wouldn't have been on your Facebook page. So, and who wouldn't have known about this community and who wouldn't have had an opportunity to look at this gorgeous kitchen in the background. So, you know, I did a brainstorming session with one of my teams this week, and one of my salespeople is a huge sports memorabilia guy. And we have these beautiful built-ins in the model. So we're actually going to set up with some of his sports memorabilia and merchandise it in the model, and actually bring in a guy who is a reputable dealer, and have him talk about, you know, collecting and how you know whether it's authentic or not, and how you know not get ripped off by this, and all the ins and outs of all of that. So it can be anything. It doesn't have to be wine tasting. You know, it can be any type of activity where you can have one person and one videographer in the model doing this, and do a Facebook Live and promote it, and, you know, send out invitations for it. I mean, you can do a lot of stuff with it. Carol, you probably have a lot of thoughts on this too.
I do have some thoughts, and actually you shared a couple of them with me. We saw this week that Flynn Built is doing quarantine bingo on their Facebook page. I think that is super, super cute. So you can, you know, check whether you worked from home, wore a mask, played a board game. Super cute. Also seeing lots of lunch and learns. So lunch and learns on various topics. That's something fun you can do virtually. There's a cyber sale going on here in Atlanta. So, you know, the sky's the limit. Be creative. There's one builder that's setting their appointments up through an app that they're using on Facebook. I thought that was kind of cool too. And it pops up the first thing when you go to their page, so you can set those appointments. So that's another way you can, you know, try to get those people on site if that's possible, or set a virtual tour if that's what you're doing. So lots of good ideas out there.
Yeah, that button reminds me. I actually had a builder this week who added a button to their website that says schedule your virtual appointment here. You know, and I thought, oh, that's fantastic. You know, so let's embrace it. You know, focus again on what you can do. Anybody else? Leah, Jane?
I liked what Carol was saying about the lunch and learns. I think the design studio can do some great lunch and learns too, highlighting different hot new products, or just, you know, describing how the experience will be if it's a virtual appointment, or all kinds of inspiration, style trends, lots of fun stuff.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, absolutely. I can see that all day long. All right. So moving on here today. So let's throw back to Carol, and let's talk about how marketers and communicators can add value right now.
Well, I think one of the biggest things we can do as marketers and communicators is to help our internal teams learn to use all this technology. You know, they're not necessarily used to virtual meetings. They're used to being out in the field. So helping them with that, and even doing things like setting up, you know, we use Google Hangouts internally, like as our instant messenger. So we all talk to each other, whether we're, you know, sitting in the next room, so we're not screaming from room to room, or whether we're all over Atlanta like we are right now. So I think that's something that we can all do to add value. Being available. Traditional office hours certainly do not apply. I think everyone on this call, we're all talking before the webinar about how many hours we're all working right now, and it's, you know, 10 to 12 hour days. And I think I just have to stop. I get to a point that I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop and I'm going to go make dinner. Enough is enough. But we're all crazy busy. So hours don't apply. Office hours are out the window. Give advice when you can. You know, however, we can all help each other. Proactively help them. It's going to position you very well for the future, and position you as an expert within your own organization or within the industry. And then just continue to communicate via social, via blogging, via public relations. We all need to get good news out there. So share those good messages, and just ensure that your strategic communications are running smoothly. And I think that's what we can do to really give back. I think Leah has some ideas on this too. Leah, do you want to touch on it?
Sure. So just like what you're saying, it's very important for you to get your messaging straight. And if you're that frontline person communicating with prospects, whether you're an online sales counselor, an agent, or whatever, you need to know what the marketing message is, what the company message is, and be putting that out to the people that you're communicating with, so that there's a cohesiveness between it. And you need to make people feel comfortable. I mean, no more of the sky is falling, no more COVID everything, you know, in everything. But I mean, just as an example, the other day, my sister was freaking out because my 82-year-old parents were having a cleaning company still come into their house and clean, right? And she was like, oh my God, we don't know anything about these people. They're old. And I'm like, yeah, but they're not going to be able to keep the house clean either. So it's important for that company to put out the message of all the safety precautions they're taking, because they don't want to get sick either. So coming into your home, you know, there should be a great sense of communication for those frontline people to be like, we have masks, we have gloves, we're going to put you at ease, you know. And I mean, these are the things we're using to kill germs. So it's that same kind of thing for us to be utilizing and putting out that message to make everybody feel comfortable that if you are coming for a live, you know, meeting in person, these are the things we're doing. And I know we've talked about that before, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it later on. But just having that cohesive message that your communicators are putting out, that your marketing, that your company is really solidifying it all in one piece. That's pretty much my take on what you can do to add value right now.
And be able to ebb and flow, right? If, you know, as the front end is hearing, be sure you're alerting your marketing team.
Exactly. And the marketing team should be in both. The communication has never been more important than going both ways, you know? So
Leah, we have a question from Lori Asaro out of San Diego. Hey, Lori, thanks for joining us. And she says, how frequently are you touching future prospects, and what topics might those touches include? I thought that was an excellent question.
And that's perfect because it actually leads right into our next slide, Kimberly. It's because we were going to talk about email marketing next, and does it still work in this selling environment? So Lori, yes, it does. And we're going to talk about frequency of that. Email marketing is really important, but you don't want to be too heavy-handed with it, okay? So it's not a good time to increase your actual email marketing and be sending out multiple mass emails. But what is really important is in the email marketing that you are putting out there to use some interactive tools like surveys, polls, videos, and things that, like I said, lose the COVID-19 subject lines. Nobody wants to see that in their inbox anymore. They're just deleting them. So if you use email marketing efficiently, sometimes there's a confusion between email marketing and email follow-up, and they really do go hand in hand. So the frequency of your touch points still needs to be there. Many schools of thought say that it takes about 6 to 8 touch points for a lead to start communicating with you. It takes 8 to 12 or so for them to turn into actual sales. So you don't want to reduce the frequency of your messaging, but you definitely want to, make sure it's not all email marketing. People can identify that, those pretty colorful templates, they don't sound like they're coming to them personally. You've got to have your personal engagement, your personal follow-up. You have to mix those touch points up with your phone calls, your text messages, your video emails, anything that's going to change up the way they're getting those touches delivered to them. And later on, I'm going to talk about how some of that is trackable as well. But so as far as how often you should touch your future prospects, I mean, when you say future, you mean people who are going to be your future buyers, because that really is, if somebody's inquiring, you're not slowing down on your touch points. If somebody's inquiring right now, they're very serious about buying a house. So you want to make sure you continue that. And to go back to my metrics really quickly from earlier is, even though we look at the number of leads we get compared to the unique monthly hits, we see on average only 25 to 35 of those actually converting into appointments. So 75% sometimes don't even reply to you, even though they have put out and inquired. And that can be a lot of different reasons, different third-party lead systems, algorithms. You know, your organic leads should actually convert at a higher ratio to appointment, because those are people that are truly coming out to find you. So it's really important that when you do get those leads and they inquire, that you continue a follow-up process and you stay true to that process. Because if you stay true to that process, you may have, that 80, or 75 to 60% that aren't going to talk to you. But by doing the process and touching them up to that 6, 8, 10, 12 times, that's how you're going to get ROI on that.
So, and thank you. And Lori, to further, I see you're talking about fence sitters. So I'm encouraging nice salespeople to call, set up video chats, offer to set up a virtual walkthrough. If your team can still get out and go into a quick move-in, a home under construction, whether it's a to-be-built that you're building for a customer or your model center, set up those FaceTime, set up those walkthroughs that are not just a video, but say, you know what, I can virtually show you through the home. And we keep talking about this virtual, that people are sitting at home and they do want to have that. They don't feel the pressure. We can't pressure people right now because that's going to completely backfire on them. So yes, anything that you can do. I put out sandwich signs for a couple of my builders. We were working on language on those, saying, we're here, we're open, schedule your appointment with us, call this number, and we'll put the sales team's cell numbers out there, and we can do one-on-ones here in Florida still. So this builder was in Florida, but we're only servicing one family at a time and by appointment only. And people are still selling homes. I talked to a lot of salespeople this week, and all but 2 of my salespeople actually sold homes this week. So spoiler alert there, people are thinking it's all gloom and doom, and all but 2, and those 2 actually people that they're working with. So it's just that, that process has taken just a little bit longer. Carol, I know you had some great success stories on that.
Yeah, we have a great story about Green Tech Homes out of Chattanooga. They're using the EnterNow lock system on their homes, and their leads and visits are 3 times higher since starting to use EnterNow than they were before COVID starts, which is actually interesting. I think it gives, unfortunately, some credence to, we were just driving by, we're just looking. You know how when you go to the department store and you really don't want to be bothered by the salesperson? Apparently our home shoppers are the same way. They really want to go see these homes without anyone there, and they're taking advantage of that. There's some research by Forrester that shows that people really like to shop unassisted. So, it's a great solution if people can still get out and tour your homes to allow them a way to enter the homes unassisted.
Just make sure you're sanitizing in between.
Absolutely.
And again, I will say what I have said for weeks now. If you have those coated lockbox, the mechanical ones, get rid of them. That is dangerous right now. You need to replace it with something like an EnterNow, or one of my builders who is a smart home builder this week. Actually, they have the remote app where you can open the door. So they chose to do their own screening system to let people in, but then they're making sure as soon as after they let the people in and they leave, which they can see them leave too, they're relocking the door, the codes change, and they're sending in somebody to re-sanitize everything in the home. So I would encourage you to have video cameras in your homes if you're going to do that route. But there's so many things that we absolutely can do. So do we know the cost for EnterNow, and are they also using cameras inside? Good question. So the website for them, and what I love about EnterNow is they do the screening for you. So it's fantastic. So it's NTERNOW, not EN. It's just the letter N, TERNOW.com. And you can absolutely reach out to that team over there to get the cost on that. Or again, like my builder, just using his smart home apps that he had. So, oh, look at this. Somebody just installed EnterNow and writing 2 contracts. Woohoo! So
Woohoo.
They are phenomenal. They really do a great job. Oh, thanks, Carol, typed it up for us. So, all right. Anybody else have anything on this slide you want to add before we move on?
Yeah, I want to talk about the OSC. This is where I wanted to talk about a couple things on the tracking that you can do if things are slowing down, if leads are slower. And what really, when I talked about engagement before and tracking engagements, you can track your actual engagements in your CRM of who's talking to you and how many things you're sending out. But if you have interactive floor plans, like from companies like Outhouse, you have a whole back end that will track how long people are on your floor plans, what they're doing, how many they're playing with. So as an OSC, people might not be talking to you, but you can see that they're spending that time. Same with your CRMs. If you have something like Lasso, you can see that your prospects are coming back over and over again. You can see how long they're spending on the website. And those are not just what's in Google Analytics, but what's directly in these tools. If you have live chat, you need to keep track of that, because a lot of chats, especially the free ones we're putting on, are not going to add that chat to your number of leads. So if we're trying to keep track of our leads and how many people we're engaging with, we need to be manually entering those people into our database to keep track. And then if you're sending a lot of videos, again, like BombBomb, it has great back-end tracking, and you can see how many people and how often they're opening your videos. So even if they're not replying, you know that they are taking in what you're putting out. And the same goes for CallRail. CallRail has an excellent back-end tracking. So, you know, there's a lot of ways that you can, even if it seems like engagements are down or it seems like leads are slower, you'll see people are still just as engaged if you have these tools to help you see that. And it won't just be, hey, nobody's replying to my email. So
someone is asking us, what is BombBomb? And that's a video email service, basically. So you can actually you take your videos, you insert them right into the email. And again, it's a service, and it has the analytics and everything that go with it. If your company doesn't have BombBomb, or you don't want to invest in that, then there you go. Thank you, Carol. So if you guys are following along in the chat, you can see that. I spent a session this week with one of my sales teams teaching them how to actually embed a picture in their email that is part of their, I'm going to call it CRM. I'm not going to say what it is, but I could do as much with the spreadsheet just about as I can on that one, but they do call it a CRM. And then how they could actually put that picture in there, embed it, make it a hyperlink, and have that video go out. So again, there are ways to do these things, but these services are phenomenal, because then they provide you those back-end analytics so you know how well they're working. Always recommend that. So good questions. Keep them coming, guys.
We have one in the Q&A that says, after last week's webinar, I reached out to Enter Now and found out we are one of the only places Enter Now is not allowed by MLS. Are there any other companies out there you know of that offer similar service?
I can answer part of that. There are other companies, but if Enter Now isn't allowed there, then they're not going to be allowed either. I know there are some regulations in some states. I think Kimberly has an idea that came from one of her clients on something they're doing to allow remote access that might be allowed there. Kimberly, you want to add that?
Yeah, I don't know what the exact rule is in that particular state that wouldn't have allowed them to be there. So double check the laws in your state. So and double check places where we kind of force all traffic through general real estate agents. You're probably going to run into some conflicts with a super lockbox. And a super lockbox is a wonderful thing, because at least you know what realtors have been through your homes. But they don't exactly allow a customer to go in without being accompanied by a realtor. So there may be some laws there, so always double check that. But yeah, I was saying my client is just using his smart home apps that allow him to open the door for people, and he does have cameras in because he is building a smart home. So if you are still doing face-to-face, I do want to just quickly remind you, we still have to be COVID friendly. NAHB is putting out all their guidelines, and they're even having a whole thing this Thursday or next Thursday about what our trades and people on our job sites need to do so that we can remain an essential business and stay open in the states that allow us to remain open as an essential business. So guys, lock the doors. You got to lock the doors. You got to go to appointment only. You got to limit the number of people that are in there. No children. I went to Target last night to pick something up, and everybody was doing a really good job with social distancing, except this one lady went through with her kid who had a mask that he put down on, it was dangling off of his neck, and he's touching everything as he goes. So no kids. You just have to tell people right now, I'm sorry, it's only the decision makers. If I am hearing where some places are allowing realtors to come. So, again, as long as it's groups that are smaller than 10, but I would encourage you not to have 10 in a model center. It's going to be very difficult for you to maintain 6 feet of distance apart in most of our homes as you're touring model centers. So I would say 2 plus 1 of your sales reps. Just please maintain that safety. So, and Jane, I think you probably have some thoughts on this as we move forward, and how, especially as we have our customers engaged, or even, how we can utilize the design center to help bring us all up with that engagement. I know Lori had that question of, I'm having people having a hard time buying into this stuff. What can we do from the design center perspective that would help?
Well, thank you for that. And yeah, that is what I wanted to kind of orient my comments around today, is not necessarily design studio operations, but like you said, how can the design studio and the concept of personalizing a home really support the sales and marketing efforts in these interesting times that we're having? And I absolutely want to say thank you so much to Kimberly and to all the panelists, not just for having me today, but for providing this great service to the industry. And I just love this industry so much. It's so heartening to see how we're all really coming together and trying to support each other. So in the few minutes I have here, I hope I can give you guys some good tips as well. And the answer as to how the design studio can really support the sales and marketing efforts right now is honestly no different than what we should be doing all the time. It's just maybe a heightened need or a heightened opportunity. And I think the things I have to share with you really fall into 2 different realms. The first is about inspiring our buyers, and the second is about setting expectations for how they can personalize their home should they become a purchaser. And in terms of attracting prospective buyers that are aligned with your brand promise, assuming you have a design studio and you have a pathway for personalization in your company, the types of things that we can be doing now are showing customers why they should still care, why desiring a uniquely personalized home is important, and how your company can provide that for them. So there's all kinds of things we can do to inspire our customers, and also to show that the design studio and the company are really design authorities. And these are things like posting videos or photo collages and live videos or recorded. And some of the topics that you all can explore run the gamut from, here's a hot new product that we just got into the design studio that we want to talk about. You could talk about different style trends through showcasing different products, or even doing a recorded or a live video in your model home or your design studio, so that people realize while the world is changing, other things are the same. And there are trends that are going on, and products that can perform and enhance your lifestyle. And all of these things are still happening today. So we really are seeing builders do some interesting things with this. The other thing I think is really important is if you have prospective buyers and they might be wondering, how will I personalize my home if I can't or don't want to go into the design studio? We certainly don't want that fear or concern to be an impediment to them moving forward with a purchase decision. So we're really working with all of our clients and encouraging all the builders out there to put that information out, show potential buyers and even buyers that have just purchased how you will deliver the personalization experience to them. And this is really about showing them a step-by-step process for how it's going to be different now. It's just different, that's all, but we have 3 X's, and that's what we want to have everyone share with their customers. And these 3 X's are, we're still excited. We are absolutely excited to help you personalize a home. We can't wait to show you what we have here, and we can't wait to help you create your dreams. The second X is kind of like, we're still the experts. We're prepared to guide you. And here's exactly how a virtual appointment would work, and show them step-by-step, maybe screenshots or a live video or recorded video so that they can envision how that step-by-step process would work, and let them know in these times of uncertainty, we are absolutely going to guide you to the creation of a uniquely personalized home that will satisfy your lifestyle needs and your design preferences. And the third X is really saying you will not miss out. We are going to provide a phenomenal experience. So the third X is about an experience. Whether you're in the design studio with us or you are having a virtual appointment, you will absolutely have a wonderful world-class personalization experience as you always would with our company. It's going to be a little bit different, and here's how it'll work. And I think having the confidence and the plan of action to show them can be very comforting and help to convert some of those prospective buyers to actual purchasers. And then I wanted to throw out another idea. We're obviously working so much with the design teams right now on process improvement and changing things to be appropriate for the environment today. And one of the things some of our design teams are doing are 15, 20-minute virtual welcome appointments before the design appointment. And I wanted to mention this on the call today because I think it's a really nice opportunity for maybe the sales team to be involved as well. So even though the design team would run the appointment, the sales team can participate, the salesperson, the new home consultant can participate in that appointment and do a handoff, which we should be doing anyway, to show we're all part of one team and here's how we work together. And the goals of that welcome appointment would be to get the customer 100% comfortable and confident for their upcoming design appointment. So we don't start a design appointment and they don't know how to work the technology, or everything's uncomfortable and they don't know you. And so these are times of uncertainty. We want to give our customers assurances. So if you were to do maybe a 15 or 20-minute welcome to the design studio appointment virtually, you definitely want to take the time to connect with the customer, really understand where they're at right now, and create that all-important rapport. I think it's a great opportunity for the design consultant to set himself or herself up as a trusted authority, so that between the time of the welcome appointment and when the actual design appointment starts, the buyer now has a comfort level. They're looking forward to it. As I said, getting the kinks worked out on the technology so you can start that as design appointment and just hit the ground running is another good goal of this type of welcome appointment. And basically to make sure that if perhaps we are not doing in-person previews of our design studio, we are still helping to deliver a prepared buyer to the design appointment so we can still have a successful appointment. And maybe walking the customer through all the different tools that you can provide to them so they are prepared when the appointment starts. And I think I'm just about out of time, so I hope that some of those tips help everybody out there to have successful experiences.
There's actually
that's fantastic. We did have a question in the Q&A concerned about how do you help the customer when they're so used to that touch and feel? So they, how do you overcome that one with them?
Yeah, absolutely. So everything is about setting expectations, and we're working so closely right now with builders to set an expectation for the customer for how things will be different than perhaps they thought it would be. And one of the things we're telling our customers before they come in for their virtual design appointments is, this is going to be a concierge level design appointment. We are at your service, and we are thrilled and excited to bring you any samples to put the products together. For your safety as well as our own, we will ask that you refrain from touching the samples, but you'll be able to just sit back and relax, and we're going to provide a great experience for you. We're happy to pull any products. We're certainly also coaching our design consultants to find out ahead of time what the buyer might be interested in, and compile in advance what we call design concept presentations for them to have some feedback on to jumpstart things. So the answer is it comes down to setting expectations, letting them know ahead of time, here's how this is going to run.
So, and are you hearing from people who may be out of town buyers, or who are just feeling perhaps a little even more stressed because of the travel restrictions, that they can't get there, and how they're concerned?
Yes, absolutely. We are really doing a ton of coaching right now around how to run a a virtual design appointment and the different types of tools that are available. And if you can show the customer how you're prepared for it, I think that they seem very, very willing and able to try something different. Most of the consultants are working with 1 or 2 tools. So they're usually working with a screen share application where they have different tools up on the computer, but they're also at the same time using a phone and doing a FaceTime or a Skype on their phone to be able to walk around the studio. And in fact, I just posted a few days ago a link to a stand on wheels that will hold an iPad that the design consultants are using to walk through the studio during virtual appointments. Certainly the sales team could use it as well in the models. And speaking about posting on Facebook, we're also going to post next week a video, step-by-step instructions on how to do a recorded video, or it could be a live video, on a design studio preview of your vignettes in your studio, so you can still try to use those tools for the customers.
Oh, that's fantastic. So Carol, do we have any other questions coming in on, I see some people are on the Q&A and some are on the chat.
Yeah, we have a question that probably would be a good one for you, Kimberly. How are you guys including realtors in compliance with realtor laws and new sales, such as realtor registration compliance on the first visit?
Oh, that is a good one. So I always encourage my builders to do a broker registration form and to post their broker registration policy on their website and use it as part of their educational materials. So this is a broker registration form that says, you know, what we're going to pay, how we're going to pay it, when we're going to pay it, and what the expectation is of the realtor, what the protection period is, all of those things. I do have samples of those. If anybody wants to message me afterwards, I will be happy to send you one. And that requires that the broker register their buyer. At this time, I'm hearing a lot of different things depending on what state you're in. Some builders are still allowing the broker or realtor to attend if they are still having face-to-face meetings. Others are incorporating the realtors in virtually by, again, Skype or FaceTime or Zoom or whatever tools that they're using. It's very important that we have those buyers pre-registered, of course, as we're scheduling those appointments, and just explain. And most realtors do understand right now what they are and are not able to do in order to attend. So again, get that pre-registration so that you can protect those brokers who are still trying to do business with you. I think that's really, really important. And if that didn't answer your question, let me know. Thanks, Robert.
Yeah, he said thank you, so I think it's answered. Leah?
I also want to just throw out something for people, because I talk to, whenever I set up an online sales program, I try to get the builder to buy into the idea that your online sales counselor can register the agent with a buyer, because it's inevitable that a buyer is going to be searching your website and also possibly be working with a real estate agent, and vice versa. A real estate agent may be calling and talking to your online salesperson or that point person. And it's important to get the name right then and there of the person they're dealing with, so you can match all the correspondence your online sales counselor is doing with someone who may already have a real estate agent. So I know some builders have pushback against that, but it's something I highly recommend, that you have a process in place whereby your online sales counselor can set a real estate agent's nerves at ease by saying, let me register you with your client, so that I know if they're talking to me, they also have you, you know? So that's something that I do with that.
Absolutely. It's so important. I always encourage my realtors to call the OSC because they're the ones who know what's happening in all the communities, not just maybe not just the one that the buyer is interested in or that you knew about as the realtor. So the OSC can obviously point them in a couple of different directions if that is the correct conversation to have after doing their discovery. We also have a couple of other points on here, because we did get some questions about pre-construction meetings, frame walks, and closings even. And I just want to say, again, this varies widely state to state. Some of the most innovative ways that I've seen is to actually provide iPads for the customer and have the superintendent do the walk virtually. So the superintendent is the one who's virtual. And the customer then, when they're physically in place, can go into their home, especially if it's at a safe place to do this, like the orientation, the final orientation, and prior to the closing, any of those walks. Obviously, frame walks and pre-construction meetings. We at a frame walk, it is not safe for the customer to be in there by themselves. So we have to do that one kind of the other way around, where we have that superintendent and then have the customers on there virtually, unless, again, you can keep it to just those three, and there's enough space in the home that we can maintain that distance depending on what the regulations are in your state. So don't be afraid to stay innovative with this. Where you are allowed to still build, we should be building, because remember, what we don't start today is income we don't have in 6 or 8 months from now. So we definitely need to keep what we have going. And I'm hearing a lot of discussion about still even flow construction, and maybe we're spacing that out a little further, but we are still even flowing our construction to maintain that good customer experience, and also to space out to give our trades and give everyone the opportunity to work on the home and still remain in COVID guidelines for that. So, before we go, I just have to say, this gorgeous design center that you see on this slide is one that Jane and her team designed, and she was gracious enough to share that with us for the presentation. It's absolutely stunning, Jane.
Thank you.
So, all right. Quickly, ideas, Carol. I know you're working with some teams on how to do good, and we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about that.
Well, we've got some builders really doing some really cool things as far as doing good, but I'm going to give a shout out, first of all, for Homemade Atlanta. They usually do an essentials drive for all the different women's shelters in the Atlanta area, and they support about 10 or 15 shelters, and they collect diapers and wipes and baby formula and all sorts of stuff. They do it every spring. Well, obviously, collection's a little hard this time of year, and especially during COVID, so they went completely online and created Amazon lists for each of the shelters. So, that's another way that builders are giving back here locally. So think about some of those things you usually participate in and how they might be struggling because they're used to doing things, in real life, in real person, in person. And if there's a way that you can help them go virtual or give to them virtually, that would be a phenomenal thing to do. So I was just going to give a shout out for them. I think that the coolest client I have right now is a builder in Detroit who's a woman who has a background in manufacturing, including working for DuPont Paint, 20-year history in manufacturing, and she can't build because Detroit is completely shut down. So instead, she is gearing up mask production and is going to be selling masks. She's just gotten the website live, and they're about to start taking pre-orders. So that's the neatest thing I've had the privilege of working on. We've been helping her with email marketing and messaging and content for her website. So I've been having a blast with that. But I know, Kimberly, this is you've got a great idea on what builders can do to give back. So I'm going to flip this back to you.
Yeah, I have been encouraging builders both on NAHB on Facebook and reaching out to my own clients. And I've got a couple of them that are working on this where you can do a contactless food drive. I mentioned this in our call last week. Basically, you just set up a bin outside, put some snipe signs out, let people know, do your Facebook and announcements about it, that you're going to be doing this, put it on your website, put it on your blog, get the word out, have your sales team calling people to say, hey, if you stocked up and you got too much stuff, our food bank at feedingminneapolis.com is they're running low on food. So we're asking you to bring your non-perishable food items out and just drop them by. You don't even have to have contact with us. And then I would encourage you to do that for a time frame so that you can have somebody out on the driveway of your model center or wherever you're going to have your collection to wave to them, and also have maybe a basket or something out with some of your information in it too. So win-win there. And of course, a sign with your website. We had a local representative, a state representative here, who did a twist on this, and she actually took her van out and announced when she was going to be in certain areas, and she's doing curbside pickup. So she's actually going out in the community and picking up items for donation for one of our local charities, Metropolitan Ministries, who just this week had to announce they can no longer accept any more people from COVID who were not already signed up in their regular programs. they're still providing lunches for about 3,000 people per day, and food and boxes for 3,000 people a day. However, they ran out. They weren't able to get supplies. So we know people are really hurting. So make sure that, in this time, let's not forget that there are those that are less fortunate than us, and do what we can. Any questions? We're going to open this up to our open forum, and I know you guys have had a lot of great questions, but any additional ones, and while people are typing, we'll do some final thoughts. Oh, yeah, Carol?
There's another question. They want to know, where is that design center? So Jane, where is that?
The studio that was on the screen is Visionary Homes in Utah.
Oh, very nice. And then there was another question earlier about weekend directionals. Is anyone still doing weekend directionals? Have you switched those directionals to say things like by appointment only, or contact us virtually? Or, I'm just wondering, I think that was a great question too.
Oh, yeah. That is a great question. I haven't seen, and Leah, have you seen anybody doing that? But that'd be great. What a good idea.
So, I haven't been out, so I haven't seen anything, and I haven't really talked to many of my clients about it, but I do think it's a great idea to utilize the companies that usually would do your weekend directionals. And that's what Hunter Morris is talking about. That's his business, to repurpose that message, reposition the way you use those, so that people who are out and about driving can see that they can set appointments. And so having that pertinent information on those directionals, guiding it back to that person at the top of your funnel, whether it's an online sales counselor or an agent that's taking those leads in, is a very important way not to lose that drive-by traffic we've got right now.
Right.
Yeah, there may not be as much drive-by traffic. Obviously, it's a lot quieter. And then Amma Smith says, they're not an essential business. And again, always double check with the rules in your area.
And that's going to vary by state. So the sign company I work with here locally just sent out an e-blast yesterday that they've been deemed essential because they're working with the local hospitals on signage.
Wow.
So, it varies.
Well, and if your sign company is closed, you could possibly even reach out to Hunter Morris, because it sounds like they're still trying to provide a service for builders, and see, what can be done, because signage is always important to give people direction on how you're functioning. And it comes back to that marketing messages we were talking about.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions?
There's questions in the Q&A. Sorry, I just realized that we've got them in both places.
Lori shared buildasign.com. So
right. Somebody said, not a question, but yes, DR Horton, Nevada is doing weekend directional signs.
And Hunter said, we are in Houston, Dallas, Austin, Atlanta, Tampa, Phoenix, and Denver.
And they have been deemed essential as well.
Yeah. Hey,
and then, he shared his email address. So hmorris@nspag.net. I'm happy to share that. And then we've got buildasign.com. So yeah, I guess signage is varying very widely, just like whether you can build or not build, or have an appointment or not have an appointment. It is all over the place. So
yeah.
So, and I know we've gone a little bit long on time because we've had so many great questions. I'm going to put our contact information up here again. Please reach out to any of us. We are all in this together, and we want to help you. And if we don't know the answer, then we'll reach out to somebody who will. So nobody has a playbook, as we've said many times, for what to do during this thing. We're all figuring it out together. But my philosophy is always more heads are better than one. So thank you all for joining us. And again, you will get a link for this so you can replay it or share it with your teams. We appreciate all of you. And please reach out. Tell us what you want to hear more on. And if you want us to do another one next week, then we're happy to put one together for you. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great time. Stay safe out there.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Great weekend.
Thanks, panelists. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for having